Lesson number 4 is that all miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct you very specifically. You will be told all you need to know. So there's some really big points in here, and actually there's almost some instruction here about how to live a blessed life. Starting with, all miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. So, as you may know, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I practice iridology. So, you might not know what iridology is. So, iridology, the entire body is actually mapped out on the iris of our eyes. And by reading the different markings, I can help people figure out what the underlying cause is of any symptoms they may be experiencing. But enough about that. I wanted to let you know that because in the iris, there is actually an area called the Animation of Life Center. And it's right at 12 o'clock in your iris, and it goes straight up from the pupil, straight up to the rim of the iris. And the Animation of Life Center in the iris actually symbolizes our spiritual connection, which is very interesting because sometimes a client will come in and they'll have a mark in their eye in that area, and I'll know that something's happened. Either they've considered suicide, or something happened in their life that they actually thought that they were going to die, or there was some sort of disconnect for them spiritually from God. Interesting, right? Because it shows up in your iris. And it can also let us know where we have not fully accepted the gift of life from God. God is what animates our physical being, right? When a person crosses over, it's not like their physical body disappears, right? Their physical body is still here. The essence of who they were is what's ascended and gone back to its true heavenly form. So God is the giver of life really opens our eyes to being present to the presence of God within us. So think about that. If God is what animates your life, right? God is what animates your body, then God is present even at the level of your cells. Very interesting. Did you know that the mitochondria of this cell, the energy center of each cell, if you were to look at it under a microscope, it actually looks like light. Perhaps it is the light of the Creator. Interesting, right? And it opens up a lot of possibilities. It opens up the possibility of why some people experience miraculous healings and some people don't. Some people get that God is not some abstract thing that's outside of them. God is within them. They've just become distracted by other things instead of being present to God's presence. So all miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. And it's actually our presence in the present to God's presence, which is what gives our life meaning. It gives our life joy. It gives our life love. It gives our life possibility. So many times I'll come across people who, my clients, my friends, my students, and, they're having a bad day. And usually, when they're talking to me and I'm letting them express whatever it is that's going on for them, I really realize that what's come up is they've lost focus of the miracle of God's presence in every moment. And instead, they've gotten distracted. Their ego has become distracted by physical things, whether it's a human or a workplace incident or a something. But somewhere they've gotten distracted by the illusion of separation. And that is what's causing them distress. Because really all that's happened there is, instead of being present to the presence of God right here and right now, they've become distracted by the illusion of separation here on the physical plane. Are you with me? So if you think about that for yourself in your own life, you can start looking at how in your own life you allow yourself to become distracted from being present to the presence of God's magnificence right here, right now, right? And that is our spiritual practice. Our spiritual practice is actually keeping ourselves present to God's presence. That's all your spiritual practice is, okay? And however that works for you. For me, if I find myself getting all kerflunkety or all distracted by my ego, I'll realize this is no fun. And I'll immediately look for something around me that's really beautiful. Or I'll put on a favorite piece of music and dance around the living room because I love to dance. That's one of the things that brings me joy. But I consciously reconnect myself to the peace and the joy and the love and the light that is God. That is our birthright. That is your birthright. Okay? Now the next part goes on to say, his voice will direct you very specifically. You will be told all you need to know. Now, it's kind of interesting because, for much of my life, I've considered myself to be very psychic. Okay, so don't get thrown off by that word psychic. Psychic actually comes from the Greek word psyche, which means soul. So people who are psychic are actually communicating on a soul level. It's almost like they're connecting from highest wisdom to each other. Okay? Some people call it the third eye, right? And they're connecting in a way that goes beyond words. It goes beyond body talk, your body language. It goes beyond anything physical, where it's just soul to soul. We're connected as one. Okay? So psychic people are actually just people who are communicating from a very soulful level instead of our normal human levels. Does that make sense to you? If it doesn't, please leave a comment below and I'll help you discern it, okay? But God's voice will direct us very specifically. And when you find yourself very, very present to God's presence, you feel this inspiration, okay? Inspiration is in spirit, inspired. God is present. Cool, right? So when we are present to God's presence, we become inspired, and you'll hear God's voice directing you as to what would be the highest and best for all concerned in this moment, right? Because one of the cool things is when you practice listening for God's voice, you bring yourself so present to the presence of God, and you really intentionally ask for guidance and start listening for that guidance. all of a sudden life becomes almost synchronistic. You know, like you'll think of somebody and the phone rings and it's them. You'll have like a little dream of something and the next day it happens. Those are all our birthright, really. That's the way we were designed to be living life. We were designed to be living on earth as it is in heaven. If we're not living on earth as it is in heaven, it's only because we've gotten distracted by something. And we have to bring ourselves present to the presence of God's love again. It's really that simple, that beautiful, and that powerful. And when you do that one little simple thing, you will up your ability to create miracles, to witness miracles. Miracles are all around us all the time. The only reason we're not seeing miracles is because we're not tuned into them. We're not present to them. We're all distracted by life, our jobs, our kids, our families, our blah, 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 blah. Instead of loving them and seeing the God in them, seeing God's presence right there. You know, one of my friends mentioned yesterday that for this holiday season, she really wanted to experience this holiday through the eyes of her childhood self. Like when we're children, we see like the magic and the miracles of the holiday season. And when we become grown up and we become all responsible, we lose that. But that's not necessarily true. I'm 51 years old this week, and I see the miracles all around us. And I want to invite you to witness them with me. So this week, I'm going to suggest that you take time to really just become present to the presence of God's love. And remember that all miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct you very specifically, and you will be told all you need to know. Make sure you leave some messages below. Let me know how your week is coming along. And if you find this information valuable, please like it, share it with your friends, and have a great week.